Good morning, good afternoon, hey family, whatever side of the diaspora that you may be on, welcome to the Mental House. I am your host, Khadijah. Oh boy, they always say death come in threes, so I would be remiss. We lost Eric Vaughn on last Thursday, and over the weekend I found out that Mr. Victor Harris and Mr. Michael Luheen, may you rest in peace. Those are my homeboys from my youth, and I share very personal relationships with them. And you know, it's their homecoming, so I just want to say my condolences to their families and friends and children, loved ones, and the like. All right, and with that being said, I want to get to email that somebody sent me, and it was kind of horrible. It was one of the most, oof, it was what you call really a wolf in sheep clothing video. And that was, I saw an elderly man, in his 70s. He was outside watering the lawn. And a young guy came up to him. I don't know, he was anywhere between the ages maybe of 18 and 25 maybe. Rode up on a bicycle while this man was watering the grass. He didn't know if the man had a dime in his pocket. He didn't know if the man, he didn't know anything. He rode past him about maybe a quarter minute, a second, and then he turned around and pulled a gun on the elderly man and shot him while he was watering his grass over in Chirac. Um, I'm, I'm pretty sure, but I don't really recall if the man survived or not. I know he was in critical condition, or he walked himself into the house holding his side because that's where the young man had shot him at. It was just insane, you know. So now, why that was horrible, and I saw it and I felt some kind of way, about Chicago and about crime everywhere, basically. Uh, when they start putting a spin on the crime, like crime is synonymous with black and black thug and all these buzzwords, and then I began to get extremely concerned because I need to remind people that the history of Chicago was not riddled with crime from black um, terrorists and black evil demons. Chicago mobsters of the 20s have become sort of like the pirates of the Caribbean. This article actually was taken. Who wrote this article? A guy by the name of Brent D. Sorrenzio and Adam Seltzer. And I thought it was a pretty good article because what it says is they were talking about how they glorify the history of gangsterism, sort of like the Pirates of the Caribbean of Chicago, when it comes to their gangland activity. There are gangster tours, Tommy Gunn's dinner theater, speakeasies that are no longer speakeasies, and we once had a sports team called the Chicago Hitmen. It's so easy to gloss over the fact that these murderous lawbreakers introduced the world to concepts like drive-by shootings. The Prohibition-era criminal is romanticized in gangster movies and pop culture. And yeah, some of them in hindsight seem particularly silly and curious, despite being evil with their goofy hats and names like Willie Potatoes and Cockeyed Louie. The Irish Northside Gang and Southside Italian gangs, the Chicago outfit waged a bloody war on what is now our cafes, doorsteps, and donut shops. Here we rank the 17 most notorious killers, thieves, bootleggers, and yes, politicians that continue to be a part of Chicago's history of murderers. Frank Nitti. I'm sure y'all remember Frank Nitti. And for those of y'all who don't, if you've seen the movie with Kevin Costner, The Untouchables, That's the guy. What Kevin Costner threw him off the roof, and in other films, he is portrayed by Sylvester Stallone and Stanley Tucci. In reality, he was softer and bureaucratic, pushing the mobsters into political coercion, extorting money from Hollywood studios. Um, in name, he took over for Capone, though others ran the show. His survival is testament. Severe claustrophobia led him to commit suicide in a rail yard rather than face prison. Wow. John Papiatorio. He loved opera. Okay, and he's the one that brought Al Capone to Brooklyn. He was the one who really built the empire that Capone ended up in charge of. Okay. O'Banion, originally head of the North Side Gang, took revenge by shooting Torrio outside of his house in January of 1925. He survived, though, and he retired. What about Diamond Joe Esposito? Vincent Schmurder Drucke. This guy, first making the news after taking a daring leap over the Michigan Avenue Bridge while it was being raised during a car chase. Wow. Drucke was known for coming up with zany schemes such as running for mayor and going to London to steal the crown jewels. His favorite trick was, though, to dress as a priest. That was, and trick people. That's weird. Then you had Louis Two Gun Altry. He was obsessed with the Wild Wild West. What about Jack Machine Gun McGurn? You guys ever heard of him? He was one of Capone's top hit men. He was born in Sicily, and he was involved, and maybe not, in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He eventually was shot down himself in a Milwaukee Avenue bowling alley in 1936. The killers left a valentine at his feet reading, "You've lost your job, you've lost your dough, your jewels and car and handsome houses, but things could still be worse, you know. At least you haven't lost your trousers." Wow. That's the note they left beside his dead body. Then you have the Jenner brothers. They worked for John Torrio. Frank Erlaine, Giacomo Big Jim Colissimo. He was a pimp. The proto-pimp Colissimo earned the moniker Diamond Jim for his white suits and diamond rings, pins, and jewelry. His prostitution kingpin oversaw about 200 brothels, including the Four Deuces at Wabash and Cermak in the near South Side. Wow. Right now, up the street, there's a restaurant called Tommy Gunn's Garage, a 1920 gangster-themed dinner theater. What about Frank and Peter Gussenberg? They were contract killers. Okay. The younger Frank was the only survivor of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The only survivor of that massacre. Despite being riddled with 14 bullets, in the hospital, cops asked, "Who shot you?" And he replied, "Nobody shot me." Sound familiar? Ain't nothing changed. History just repeats itself. These young men are not doing anything other than what has been done before them. The dysfunction that has been laid down before them, they just picked it up and now they wearing it. Jaime Weiss, one of the board of governors who took over for O'Banion in the North Side. Weiss was considered the only man that Al Capone might have feared. He was a Polish-born mobster, and he was shot in 1926 outside of Holy Name Cathedral, right across the street from O'Banion's flower shop, a year later after his old boss was killed. Legend has it that a hole in the corner store of the church is one of the bullet holes. That's weird. Paul the Waiter Rica. Check this out. He was known as the Waiter due to his start in Diamond Joe's Esposito restaurant. Okay, they're all connected. He was running the outfit after Capone. Under his oversight, the mob moved from narcotics and prostitution to grander schemes like labor racketeering and extorting movie studios in Hollywood. He lived until 1972. What about Bugs Moran? After taking over the North Side, everyone else was was dead by then. Moran was presumably the target of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Only he wasn't in the garage that day. He was one of the pioneers of drive-by shootings. Moran lived until 1957, where he died in prison. Dean O'Banion, original head of the Prohibition-era North Side gang. O'Banion got his start as a singing waiter in a tavern where the Carryman now resides. He ran a flower shop on State Street as a day job. The great gang war of the 20s really got underway, and after he was shot in the flower shop on November 1924. By this time, the gangsters were already being romanticized. A Chicago Tribune headline once read, "O'Banion gang like pirates of olden days, beer trucks and their gold ships." Wow. Lester Joseph, y'all know him better as Babyface Nelson. Okay, as a matter of fact, I think he was killed by the age of 25. He was gunned down because he was a gangster. Oh, while he was a kid. That's why they called him Babyface. He was a teenage gangster. What about John Dillinger? He was an Indiana native who robbed banks in seemingly every Midwestern state but Illinois. Dillinger is forever linked with Chicago, the charismatic criminal who hid out in Uptown and eventually met his end outside the Biograph Theater on Lincoln, now home to Victory Gardens. He became something of a rock star, the Johnny Depp of his time, say, but with armed robberies instead of box office bombs. Through his ruthless activity. When Cook County put his corpse on display to the public, yeah, they used to do that. 15,000 people lined up to see his dead body. Wow. And last but not least, probably the most famous and the most notorious gangster of all, Alphonse Gabriel Capone, better known as Al Capone. Because he's become more of a cartoon character or Halloween costume in modern day era, it's easy to overlook the fact that he caused a gargantuan amount of death and pain in the city of Chicago. He was the pioneer of mobster as a pop star, as sharp with his PR tactics as his bootleg. While battling the North Side gang for control of the underworld, he opened soup kitchens and strutted around town in custom-made suits, chomping down on cigars and sipping Templeton Rye. Every mobster cliche today is in some way due to Alphonse Gabriel Capone. Just a little history for you so-called gangsters out there that are biting, because that's what you're doing. You're biting the worst behavior, and you are demons that are in training. You are demons. Anybody that will ride up on somebody and just shoot arbitrarily into a crowd, that is just insanity. But I want you to know, like everything else, you've been given a program now that you are following. And the only thing difference is you're not going to be glorified about your shooting and killing. In fact, they're not going to name restaurants and speakeasies for you. They're going to label you a thug, and they are going to put your face on crime being the face of color. And I want you to think about that every time you ride up on somebody for no particular reason and shoot them. I know that poverty breeds crime, but this was a senseless act of a vicious, energetic being, a low-level, low-lifed individual. And for that, I'm still reeling about that. However, you're not the author and the manufacturer of it, and I refuse to allow somebody to put that face and that spin on it. Okay, so I had to come out and make a video about that. Now, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe and share. Thank you for being out there, and I will see you next time in the mental house. Thank you, and God bless you, and bye-bye.